Start your never been there, never done that adventure. Go to a museum, art gallery, library, or some sort of public green space and take it in. Recently, my parents were visiting from Michigan because it was our son Oakley's high school graduations. And one of the things that I always do when my folks visit is I just pack the time together to keep everybody busy and on the move and doing stuff. And so when I knew they were going to come for 3 days for Oak's graduation, I started to plan their 3-day visit. And I was basically making a never been there, never done that list. And I got to tell you something, it was so revealing. There are so many places I had never been, things I had never done. And so I just started adding them to the list. And one of the biggest ones was going to a museum nearby. It's one of my favorite things to do with my mom. And so I had heard about this place called the Clark Art Institute, which is, about an hour away from where I live. Oh my God. I had no idea that one of the world's largest private art collections in the world is just an hour away from me in Williamstown, Massachusetts. I'm talking a town of 7,000 people. They have an entire room of Renoir paintings. And by entire room, I mean like 40 of them. Winslow Homer, check. Degas, check. Remington, check. All the Impressionists, check. 19 different rooms filled with paintings, sculpture, prints, drawings, photo. It was jaw-dropping. All the artists from the Impressionist era that you know. I just mentioned that I was in Paris. The collection, less than an hour from me, in a town of 7,000 people, was more impressive than that Museum d'Orsay. I can't even say it, the one with the big clock on it. Holy cow, I thought I was in Europe. Oh, and did I mention, it's on 145 acres that are landscaped in this incredible way. My jaw is still on the floor. My favorite portrait painter, John Singer Sargent, check. I cannot believe I did not know it was there until I started to dig into what to do with my parents. How did I not discover it was? I could not believe I had never been there and never done that. And there are things within an hour of you that will put your jaw on the floor. And tell you what, now that I've been there and done that, I'm going to go again and again. That's how amazing it was. And I still can't believe that as a matter of 3 days ago, I had never been there. Do you know how much shock and awe and amazement is just waiting for you to come find it? That's why I want you to fill out this list. And the fourth way that you can keep filling out this never been there, never done that list is by trying a new type of food or cooking something new. Now, I'm a huge foodie. I love, love, love cooking. I also love trying new restaurants whenever I'm traveling. I love just wandering down a street and discovering some hole in the wall or some incredible neighborhood restaurants. Isn't that like the best part of traveling? Wandering through the markets or the food stands. And so it does kind of beg the question, if we love to do that when we travel, why do you and I go to the same 2 restaurants every weekend? Well, you heard the research from the MIT neuroscientist, habituation. You get really stuck in a routine and it dulls your senses. I'm the same way. But a great way to create a never been there, never done that experience for yourself is to fill it with new places to eat, new markets to shop in, or a new recipe to try at home. And so I'll give you an example. Last month, I did this really fun thing with our son, Oakley. Oakley's gotten really into cooking lately, and he has been saying over and over again that he wants to learn how to make bread from scratch, and not any bread. He wants to learn how to bake sourdough bread. And sourdough bread baking has been on my list for ages, but never been there, never done that. I've always made excuses. I don't have enough time. It's really complicated. We can buy great sourdough bread at the farmer's market, so why on earth would I hassle with this when for $5, somebody who's an expert can do it better? I digress. I finally said to Oakley about a month ago, all right, Oak, let's do it. So we printed out an article on how you make the starter, the kind of like yeasty, really sour part of it from scratch. We went old school. And my grandparents were immigrants from Austria. They owned a bakery. And so I'm like, I got this. This is in my DNA. My grandmother made German and Austrian pastries her entire life. Sourdough? Not that simple, okay? Just got to warn you, not that simple. So Oakley and I go through the process and we make the starter for the sourdough bread. Never been there, never done that. This is a very tedious process. This is a 7-day process, okay? You have to take like 1 part white flour, 1 part wheat flour. You got to add a little water in, then you got to let it sit like every day for the 7 days. You're like looking at it, you're stirring it, you're dividing it in half. We get to day 4. I mean, it's like having a newborn baby that you got to take care of. And we're getting the hang of it. It's starting to bubble. It's starting to double in size. And I had to leave on day 4 to come down to Boston to do some work. Guess who left the starter unattended? Guess who didn't feed the baby? Guess who left the baby on the counter? I mean, this wasn't just a starter. When Oakley and I did this project, I went on social media. I put up like photographs. You guys all kind of chimed in. Fans of the show named our starter. You want to know what the fans of the Mel Robbins podcast named our starter? Dolene. Yep, really cute name. Dolene. Cute. When I came back, that starter was not ready to bake bread. That starter was dead as a doornail. My son killed the starter. He actually put it outside in the jar to hide it from me. He knew he was in trouble. Now, what I love about this story is that this is an example of a never been there, never done that adventure that fail. Huge failure. We didn't even make the bread. But holy cow, was it fun. You can even hear, as I'm talking about it, the boost in my mood, right? You can hear the energy. The research is playing out. It's true. Simply planning to do something, 1 boost. I got all excited looking for starter recipes. Doing the thing, another boost. And now I'm getting a 3rd boost because I'm telling you a story about it and I'm kind of reliving it. And here's another example of how simply trying a new place can change your life. So a year ago, I discovered one of my all-time favorite coffee shop cafe places on the planet. I mean, I probably go to this place 3 times a week. I go for coffee, I go for matcha, I go for the homemade croissants. On the weekends, my husband and I go out back and we have an al fresco dinner. Now, here's the catch. This place has been open for 7 years. I have driven past this place for 7 years. Why did I not go inside? Well, because my friend Jessie, who I referred to, told me, oh, have you been to such and such? And I was like, no, what is that place? And she's like, oh, it's like a beer garden. They serve, amazing beer and tinned fish. And I'm like, why would I go to a place that serves beer and tinned fish? That sounds disgusting. Well, I'll tell you why. Because as my mother said, try it. You might like it. Seriously. So I walk into this place one day. It turns out it's like beer garden in the back, French pastry phenomenon in the front. They make the best coffee. They have the single best croissants on the planet that they hand roll. They sell out within 15 minutes of the doors opening every Saturday and Sunday. I didn't realize that out back was not necessarily a beer garden. It's like this al fresco dining place where they make sourdough pizzas and like oysters and incredible. Like it is like being in Napa Valley in my own backyard. Oh my God. I had dismissed it before I even tried it. I was so wrong. And you're so wrong about a place that you keep driving by. So even if you're like, I don't know how I feel about fondue. I don't know if I like old cars. Add it to the list. And speaking of the list, the final thing that you should add to your never been there, never done that list, join a sports league, sign up for a community service group, or volunteer somewhere. And this is a huge, huge thing to do, especially if you are in a new city. If you're young in a new city, you want to know one of the best ways you can make new friends, join a kickball league. You don't have to be an athlete. Hell, you don't even have to be able to climb up a flight of stairs to be able to join a kickball league. You just show up, You make friends, you laugh, you hang out afterwards. It is so much fun. Another way to build community instantly and explore your backyard, volunteer. Our son Oakley had this experience freshman year in high school when it was after school and he wandered into the cafeteria because he thought he had forgotten something in there after school. And these are his words, not mine. There were a group of grandmas in the school cafeteria just chopping up a storm and cooking and chatting away. And Oakley walked up to them and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they explained that they are this organization called Grateful Hearts that takes all kinds of food donations from farmers markets and farms, and they then chop it all up and cook it all into people in our community who are food insecure. And so Oakley put down the book that he left in the cafeteria and said, "Can I help?" Put on an apron. And for 4 years, he's been hanging out with the grandmas in our communities, doing what they called chat and chop and cooking food, which is how he got interested in cooking. It changed his life because when you volunteer, you not only feel connected with the other volunteers, but you connect more deeply with yourself. You learn more about your community. So you could sign up to weed a local garden. You could be a hospice volunteer. That's what my husband Chris does. Every single Thursday, he picks up meals from local restaurants that are donated, and then he drives them and drops them off to hospice patients in and around the southern Vermont area. You can chat and chop with all the grandmas like Oakley does. You could help out at a 5K or a half marathon. I could go on and on and on. And if you don't know of any place to volunteer, just look for the Facebook group for your town. Go online, call the town clerk's office, walk into your local library, and I guarantee you people will be filled with ideas. Add them to the list. Oh my God, don't you get sick of your own routine at times? When did I become so bored? It feels like you're just kind of sleepwalking through your life. You're going through the motions. You're kind of on autopilot. Based on the research, simply putting a plan in place to explore your own backyard will bring more excitement into your day-to-day life.